It's Andy Parks live from the Washington Times on 7:30 a.m., 102.9 FM, WTNT. And my next guest is Governor Gary Johnson. Yes, the former New Mexico governor is a candidate for the presidency of the United States. Now, up until December 28th, he had been a candidate for the presidency as a Republican. He has since declared himself a candidate for the nomination to run for the presidency as a Libertarian. He joins me now. Governor, good afternoon.
Great to be with you, Andy. And you know what? A week from Saturday is the vote on who is the Libertarian nominee, and I'm hoping to be that nominee.
And I understand, if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, you're the guy. I mean, you have an overwhelming majority right now, it appears.
It appears that way. Of course, anything can happen, and nothing, sure. To take nothing for granted. But it appears as though I may be the Libertarian nominee.
Yeah. Now, last time we spoke, obviously you're sitting in here as a Republican. What happened to change your mind?
Well, it's always been about the message. Always the notion that the country's in really deep trouble. Mm-hmm. I think the country's going to collapse. It's going to be a monetary collapse, and it's going to be due to the fact that we continue to print and borrow 43 cents out of every dollar that we spend.
Yeah.
That's the bad news. The good news is that we can fix this. And so the message, we can fix this, but we need to balance the budget now. So I'm making a couple of promises. One is I promise to submit a balanced budget to Congress in the year 2013. Andy, I promise to veto any legislation where expenses exceed revenue. And speaking from my experience as governor of New Mexico, I may have vetoed more bills than the other 49 governors.
You were the veto governor. I remember that.
So I have no aversion to vetoing legislation.
How will that work in Washington, though?
I suggest to you that with those two promises, promising to veto legislation where expenses exceed revenue, promising to submit a balanced budget, even if they override, spending will be less than any other scenario that you could possibly come up with. Now, all this is in lieu of the fact that if we don't control this, we're going to find ourselves with a collapsed currency. Now, that's my opinion. I don't think there's any escaping the mathematics of continuing to borrow and spend 43 cents out of every dollar that we're spending. I'm also promising to advocate on the part of the fair tax, which I think really reboots the American economy. Fair tax does away with the income tax, corporate tax, tax withholdings. You're going to get your whole paycheck. And the IRS, no more deductions. I think implementing the fair tax will issue pink slips to half of Washington lobbyists, because half of Washington lobbyists are there to grant whomever their special comeuppance in the with regard to the system's for sale. The system's for sale, and they're selling it.
All right, and let me ask you more about the fair tax, because the average American doesn't know exactly what that is. I mean, you're going to get your paycheck, as you say, in its entirety, and then what, at the end of the year, you have to give up a percentage? Or is it a value-added tax?
No, it's a consumption tax. It's not a value-added tax, because value-added tax implies that value-added tax is another tax. This would be the only federal tax, a 23% consumption tax. And before anybody falls off their chair talking about a 23% consumption tax, it's really cost neutral, because currently contained in the can of Coke that sells for $1 are 23 cents of embedded tax that's not apparent. You take that away, you take that hidden tax, you take that away. The can of Coke doesn't need to sell for $1 anymore for Coke to make the same profit. It can sell for 80 cents, subject to the 23% consumption tax, ends up being cost neutral.
Okay, and I can see what you're getting at here, because that would encourage the competition between soda companies, as an example, to lower the cost of the product. And so it would sort of be a trade-off, wouldn't it?
Well, it would be. And anybody that thinks that, they'll just keep the price at $1, well, no. Industry is competitive in this country, and it is about free markets, lowest cost for goods and services. That's a good thing.
Huh. I like that.
Imagine no more IRS.
Yeah, I like that.
Imagine no more filing income tax, and and the notion that you're out there fighting for every single special deduction that's ever been passed. All that goes away.
Yeah. All right. Let me ask you about the challenge of being a third-party candidate.
Well, the challenge is to get the message heard. I think I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think there was a pie-in-the-sky scenario to actually get elected. How does that happen? Well, I would have to be polling at 15% against Obama and Romney, and that would get me on the national debate stage with Obama and Romney. And, Andy, if that happens, I think anything is possible, given the fact that 80% of Americans right now are saying they would consider voting for a third-party candidate.
More than ever.
More than ever. Right now, PPP has done 4 polls with Obama, Romney, and Gary Johnson, and the 4 polls have been 9%, 7%, 7%, and 6%. So how much of it is a stretch to get to 15% when America collectively understands that there probably will be 3 candidates on the ballot in all 50 states, Libertarian candidate being one of those 3 candidates? I think that speaks a lot. Well, who is the third candidate? And then I think that what I'm saying is very similar to Ron Paul. Ron Paul's always said that he's a messenger. I've always said that I'm a messenger. It's an important message. It's saving the country, and it's about liberty and freedom. It's about the dollars and cents of balancing the budget, but it's also civil liberties. I mean, civil liberties are really important, and I don't know. Imagine a libertarian president that challenges Democrats on civil liberties, meaning let's get out of the war, marriage equality, let's repeal the Patriot Act, let's reform our drug laws. You know, come on, Democrats, serve it up. I'm going to sign. Imagine a libertarian president. No, I'm going to veto this legislation from Republicans because it spends too much. How about a challenge to the Republicans to actually get some starch when it comes to spending and challenging Democrats? Because historically, those have been the best of both of those parties. Speaking with a broad brush, I think the majority of Americans describe themselves as fiscally conservative and socially tolerant. I think that's where the Libertarian Party comes down.
All right. Now, you know you're going to get the rap from people saying, you know, if you get the nod to become the Libertarian candidate, you're going to be the guy who is going to be responsible in their minds for taking the vote or some of the vote away from Romney and allowing Obama to receive a second term. Yeah, no, I don't buy that at all. As a matter of fact, the polling in New Mexico suggests that I actually take votes away from Obama. Well, they always say that it hurts the incumbent more, although, you know, I kind of question it in this because, I mean, obviously your leanings are a whole lot different than Obama. I mean, you're not on the same page. I think I'm better on civil liberties. I think progressives perhaps would see me as more progressive than Obama, and conservatives, when it comes to dollars and cents, would see me as a lot more conservative when it comes to dollars and cents than Romney. But like I say, in polling in New Mexico, when Romney and Obama go head-to-head and then they include my name in there, I end up taking more votes from Obama. All those pot smokers that are Romney supporters, all those let's get out of Afghanistan voters that are for Romney, all of those marriage equality voters that are for Romney, they're going to flock over to me, and I'm going to cause Romney to lose the election. I don't think so. Okay. All right. That's fair. That's fair. All right. Now, how do you compete when it comes to money? Because that's such a big issue nowadays. I mean, it costs you a fortune to run an election campaign. Well, so I'm back to the pie-in-the-sky scenario. Appearing on the national debate stage with Obama and Romney, what that really ends up triggering is an avalanche of money. That's what that does. So that's really part of the equation. You know, if you don't raise at least enough to play, to be somewhat competitive, you can't play. So in this case, and I'll also point out another goal here is another goal would be to get to 5% in the general election. If that happens, if the Libertarian nominee for president gets 5% in the general election, then the Libertarian Party
in 2016 gets $90 million in federal matching funds, which is a game changer. That is an absolute game changer.
So it could be construed as you doing the work of people 4 years down the road.
Well, and if it works out that way, I would look to be that person 4 years from now also, because it is a game changer, and this is important. You know, we're only statistically 6 to 8 years behind Greece. Greece is 160% of debt to GDP.
Pretty scary.
In 6 to 8 years, we will be at 160% of debt to GDP.
Unless something happens.
And, Andy, I have the sense Obama, Romney, not so much is going to happen. That's my sense. Romney. I'm going to increase spending for the military, and I'm going to hold Medicare spending in place, and I'm going to balance the budget. I don't think that adds up, does it? I don't think it adds up. And when people hear about a 43% reduction in Medicare spending, before anybody falls off the chair on that one, how about having a health care system for those over 65 as opposed to a collapsed government where there won't be anything?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we need to recognize these as our two alternatives, because that's the two alternatives.
All right. Now, I know you got to get out of here. We have to run here. We're getting close on time. You're going to stay on the campaign trail regardless. I mean, the nomination is next week, right?
Yeah,
the vote is next week.
Right.
All right. So, are you in a lull period right now? Are you just kind of kicking back, or what's the story?
No. I've been in New York for the last 4 days, and then here yesterday and today. So no kicking back. But the convention be in Las Vegas on Tuesday, and that will last through Sunday.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. Well, good luck to you. And if you get the nod, please come back. We'll talk again.
You know what? I might be back on then. So everybody's hearing this.
Okay. Very good.
Looks like I'll be back on. All right.
Governor Gary Johnson, thank you much.
All right, Andy. Thank you.